All right, everybody. So, going into the Gridiron Guru Fantasy Football Draft, I decided to run the numbers. You know, Code Monkey runs the numbers and provides it to you, showing the numbers that are bizarre, right? The numbers that should be fixed, or just information you should know and should be clear to everyone in the league. I feel like there's a little bit of shadiness going on, so I just try to provide the clear numbers, because nobody's going to go look at the statistics and the stats and try to figure out. I know last year we had a double stacking of points, so I don't think that's going to happen this year. Hopefully not. But let's look at the value percentage provided for the points that is projected for your team, so you kind of know where you want to put your 500 value of points into players. So looking at it, we'll go over a couple charts here. First one, how I did it, took the top player projected for this year, summed up all these. You can see here, summed them all up, got a percentage of how much the quarterback will provide for that total points, 14%, right? You see that there? And then I took 14% of the points you get for the draft and showed them there. So 68 points to quarterback. Quarterbacks provide a lot of points. They should be valued at 68 points, but the scarcity of quarterback doesn't change when we look at the bottom player on the first page, 25, right? So this is 1, this is 25. If the percent goes up, they are not really that scarce, okay? If the percent goes down, they are more scarce of a position. Okay. So quarterback did go down a little bit, but there's only 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. So we're pretty much at the bottom. So that kind of makes sense. So it's quarterback will provide you roughly around the average here. If you look here, I took the difference between them. Quarterback will roughly provide around 380 points, I would say. So just pick up any quarterback you want. The percentages doesn't change. Receivers goes up a little bit because they are not scarce at all. Running back goes down because running backs are scarce. Tight ends go down. Tight ends are scarce, but they only provide 6% anyways. So 3% is not that big of a difference for those. If we look here in this graph here, which is the difference and then the average of the two, they're 5%. So this is probably the graph you want to look at. If you're on the first page, this is kind of the percentage you're looking at. But last year, let's take a look at last year. Last year, the biggest thing I noticed just looking at last year is it's all kind of the same, except this year's defense is going to provide the same value. So don't be fooled if someone tells you this year for this league that defense got dropped. It looks like everything got dropped this year. So the points are just going to be lower. So everyone, don't worry. Still pick up your defensive players. Still invest. And we'll look at this graph right here. 26% of your points here are going to be scored by defense if they're on the first page, and they're not even that scarce of a position. You see, they never really waver from the positioning. You see, 9, 6, 11, 9, 6, 11. So invest. It should say you should be investing 55 points of your points into linebackers, which is crazy because most people don't even make it to this part of the draft because one, the auto picks for defense is terrible because there's no actually expected value. And then people spend on the receivers when really both your linebackers are pretty much almost scoring half of your receivers, right? So look at this graph. I want to make this a little quicker because there's a lot to explain with this data here. But if you're on the first page average percentage value that they provide is that. Now, you may be asking, is there a difference from last year? There is an obscene difference from last year. And the biggest difference from last year, after looking and running the numbers, which some people would have known about, I want to provide to everyone in the league and let them know. But looking at this, the obscene difference is we have a receiver slot and a running back slot. We are adding more offense. That is the only thing that is going to change from last year. We made scoring adjustments. Everyone can say yada yada. The scoring adjustments look to visibly do nothing, right? So if we look at last year's top fantasy, right, the DBs provide the defense provides the same value as it does this year, even with the score changes. But because we added a receiver and a running back, it's going to cause their value to drop because we're adding more offense. But this is the percentages here, 26% still for defense. So a fourth of your points are going to come from defense. Now, this is you guys are going to laugh at this. So last year when we didn't have a receiver and we didn't have a running back, this is my team from last year. My defense scored 41% of my points, and I probably put 20 points of value into these. I mean, I had really good linebackers. Yes, that's why they're at 17%. But they scored more than both of my receivers. That is hilariously bad. That is so funny to me to look at this finally and realize the bigger issue wasn't that the defense had an issue in scoring, because when we changed everything, it looks like we changed everything and then just added running back and receiver. But when we changed everything, we changed everything. So now instead of defense, you know, dropping in points and offense going up, it looks like they nerfed everything. So I'm not even concerned about that. The biggest difference that people, I guess, or someone didn't overlook, maybe this is the way the league was set up and it just kind of was a twist and I didn't realize it. I'll put that disclaimer in there. But when we lost the receiver and the running back, all these defensive positions shot up in value. And that is crazy to me that they are scoring 41%. Last year has to be just I don't want to say voided, but that is just crazy. Or we need a little bit more clear communication, and that's what I'm trying to provide to you guys. If you end up watching this, is just look at the value that these points are scoring, and understand that nothing in the defensive points are going to change for this next year. These are the projected. This is what they scored. All right. Okay, linebackers may have went down a little bit, but everything else did. Okay, so understand that with these projections, that last year was terrible. Last year was not fun for fantasy. I think the biggest difference was receiver and running back was overlooked, and that's very sad looking at it, making 41% come from defense. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. All right, so looking at this, just wanted to let you guys know that the change was not necessarily um, running back receiver. I mean, defensive points were being dropped was the fix. It was just adding more offensive positions. Okay, and so going in to wrap this up, this is each position's points value percentage. What we can do here, why don't we do this here? Let's do a conditional formatting, and let's do it the other way. So yeah, so let's look at this here. So quarterbacks will provide the most percentage. Then it looks like running backs, receivers are all pretty much the same. Going into linebackers being the same as tight ends, DBs, and about kicker, right? And then D line won't matter. So um, that is kind of my overview of it. This is my team last year. This is just hilarious to look at, the fact that 41% of my points scored last year were from defensive players that I picked off waivers. That is just killer. But for this year going into it, because the fix was not the point adjustment, it was adding more positional players back in. I wanted to be clear about that and show you what I found when I ran the numbers. Obviously, do your own investing. And obviously, we'll probably have very skewed players, but it looks like it doesn't really necessarily matter. I mean, I had two receivers, a running back, and another running back. And I mean, they all kind of scored the same, anyways. So it's not bad to invest in those, but understand that defense is not losing its value at all. All right. Looking at this, they're not losing their value because everything lost their value. So please still draft as you would. Do not change any type of format or strategy going in. Pick up all the good players, pick up the best players you want. But just wanted to bring this to attention. This is the funniest thing I've seen, is that 41%. But yeah,